Hey guys, Pete here, HVAC Greatness. So most of the guys I'm encountering these days are having the same problem. They're trying to drive more business, right? They're trying to advertise. It's getting tougher to sell. People are having a hard time getting those bills paid. What if I told you there was one strategy that you could follow to ensure that the bills get paid? Your people stay busy. No worry. And you do this without running all these crazy ads and chasing these low-end customers. Now, I'm not talking about some marketing gimmick or some magic bullet. It's just a legitimate strategy that you can use to make sure your bills get paid, your teams stay busy, and you're not freaking out wondering what to do next. And to make it easy for you, if you like this, I'm going to have a free tool here at the end that I'll put a link at the bottom and I'll just email it to you and you can use it. Okay. So I'm going to talk about something called maintenance agreements, but before you click on, you need to listen to this and consider it from a different perspective because most people are getting this wrong. Real quick story, Miami, Florida. I'm working with a company down there and they do commercial refrigeration. They've got refrigerated storage facilities, right? Warehousing for flowers and stuff like this that are coming in from South America. The owner did this strategy. He added up all of his payroll, his predictable overtime, all of the bills, expenses, and everything else to run that company on a monthly basis. He divvied that up accordingly among his 3 biggest clients that own all those warehouses down there. And he went to them, and each of them accepted, by the way. And he said, look, I will put you on a maintenance agreement program instead of us just billing you every time something breaks. And here's what it'll include. All of the maintenance to keep this equipment operating properly. Anytime you ever have a breakdown, we come out and we will not charge you for our time. The only thing that you will pay for is whatever materials, Freon, components, or whatever that break and need to be put in happen to cost. But the labor is covered, your maintenance is covered, and that's part of your maintenance agreement program. And of course, he sold those. And so what he instantly did, and before you judge that, let me elaborate. What he instantly did is he got all of his pays covered. He didn't have any tight months ever again. He wasn't worried about payroll ever again. He billed ahead of these things. He had the money. It was in the bank. All the bills got paid. Everybody got paid. There was never a shortage. And then whatever he sold in terms of components for refrigerant was marked up. So he had a little bit of extra cash on top of that. But not only that, he was the shoe-in for all of the change work that was done. That means moving coolers around, adding additional sections, building new facilities. He got all of that new work. And by the way, he was pretty busy always doing new work, which was very profitable. So this company, at the commercial refrigeration example, he figured out how to use maintenance agreements to stabilize his income. But what about you? What about residentially? Let me show you something. Actually, we had a mastermind group meeting last night, and somebody said, well, how many maintenance agreements do you have in your company? And the answer came back, well, I have this many. How many do you have in your company? And he had his answer. Well, the reality of it is every company's a little different, right? How many should you have in your company? I created a calculator that I'm going to give to you, and you're going to be able to specifically calculate your company, your situation, your market, your scenario, and figure exactly how many maintenance agreements that you need to have so that your bills are always paid. The workload is always there. Your guys are busy. And this is the tool. I'm going to share it with you. I'm going to walk you through. This is the Excel version of this. And we're calling this the membership requirement calculator. How many memberships are required in order to meet your expenses? So the first piece of information you're going to need is you need to know what your overhead is. What is overhead? You should have seen some of my prior videos, but let me explain that to you. That's all the stuff that's not attached to the sale of an actual job, like the equipment in a job, the parts on a repair, the labor on those things, the permits. All of that is business expense. It's part of COGS, cost of goods sold. Overhead is all that stuff in the office. That would be the payroll of the office staff, not people in the field, the office people. It would be the rent. It would be your truck payments, your insurance, all of those things that that you need to keep the business running. Once you have that total, you need to figure out what percentage of your overhead is towards total revenues. Now, if you don't have this, all you have to do is add up your overhead for the year, go back and look at last year's P&L. What were your total sales? What was your overhead? And then what percentage is that? Is it 30%? And I will tell you that 30% or less is what we probably should be in HVAC, and we want to keep that as low as possible. Some of you guys might be 15%, especially if you're smaller. You have very low overhead. Just make sure that everything is in there and you don't forget anything, right? Like not paying yourself, put that in there, okay? So once you know what your overhead is and you know what percentage of your revenues is overhead, the rest is easy. So what we do is we come in and say, okay, what do you charge per year for your maintenance agreement? Whatever that number is, whether it's per month or whatever, you put the annual amount here. I'm charging $299 a year. What is the average system replacement cost these days? Okay, what you got high-end equipment, you got low-end equipment. What is your average sale that you are getting for an entire system? How many years does the typical heating and air conditioning system last before it's getting replaced these days? So if it's 12 years, 14 years, 15, you put that number in here. What is your average repair ticket? Again, go back and look at your prior tickets, add them all up, divide them by the number of repairs, and you got to be departmentalized to do this, right? You got service over here, change outs over there, and you should be able to come up with an average ticket. How many repairs does each homeowner tend to get during the lifespan of their owning their equipment? I said every 5 years. Maybe you're seeing every 3 or 4 years. You put that number in here. And then what is the average cost on any accessories that you install for your customers? It could be an indoor air quality piece. Maybe you upgrade them to the new Wi-Fi thermostat, surge protection, whatever it is that you're adding as an accessory. What does that average ticket look like? And about how many of those do they get? About how many years do they buy one of those typically? And we're saying probably one every 10 years per customer. You may actually do more. Let's say during the lifespan of the equipment, you sell 2 every time. You know, that's possible. We're saying that we're probably getting about 60% of these, 66%, right? At about every 10 years, they're getting one of these. Okay, so once you have these, you want to consider your sales closing ratio when it comes to equipment. Now, look at this separately. If you measure your closing ratio, I'll tell you right now, the typical one is about 33%. People have to go on 3 estimates to get 1 sale, right? 33%. Now, what we discovered when we tracked all of our numbers, if it was really, really poor advertising, like the Yellow Pages, we got way less than that. We may get less than 20%. Go on 10 estimates to get 2 sales. It was very competitive. That was a bad market at a bad time. But if we were following a service technician, so one of my service technicians said, hey, we need to have Pete out here to give you a price on a new system. I got half of those. In my case. But if we had a maintenance agreement with that customer and we were out there twice a year servicing their equipment, I got 85% of those. Almost 9 out of every 10 I sold. But 1 out of every 10, maybe a little bit more, they would actually go with somebody cheaper because the loyalty wasn't enough to keep them around. Now, I made this number here editable for you. I put 85% because that's what mine was. Maybe yours is 80%. Maybe as times get tougher and people start putting the work out to bid, maybe it goes down to 75%. But it's still a sight better than 33% that you would typically get off of advertising and spending the money to bring in these newer clients. These are maintenance agreement members. You're not paying to advertise. This is repeat business we're calculating. So with these inputs, here comes our results. So our lifetime maintenance fees over the period of 15 years, we're going to get $4,485, right? We've got $1,500 worth of repairs, $1,500 worth of accessories, $10,200 worth of replacement revenue, right? We've got a little bit of a factor in there. And then we're looking at the lifetime spend and what this actually works out per year. Well, if we're getting an average of $1,179 per member, Here's an easy figure for you. What if we had 1,000 members? And that would be $1.179 million, right? So what we want to do is we want to take your overhead number and say, well, how many do you need in order to make sure the bills get paid with no advertising? Repeat business through your membership. And here's what that looks like. In this case, we're looking at 849 maintenance agreements that will yield 169.8 service calls, and it will deliver 48.11 systems being replaced that year and 84.9 accessories sold, assuming you are offering these, and you should be offering these. They make your customers' lives better. So here's what those revenues would actually add up to be: the maintenance revenues, the repair revenues, the replacement revenues. And so we're looking at $1 million company here. Right, so not a very big company, but big enough. So in their case, here we go. If you have 849 maintenance agreements, you'll make $1 million in gross revenues and $300,000 in overhead revenues and never spend a penny for advertising. How does that sound? So I put this little tool on a spreadsheet, put a link at the bottom, go down there and click, and I'll email you a copy of this, of course at no charge, for my subscribers. And you can run the calculations for yourself. Now, as things change those numbers. If you're seeing the average repairs go down or up, adjust those. If you're seeing people push the replacements back from every 15 years to every 18 years, change that number. If your closing ratio is better or less, change that number too. So tweak those numbers, customize it for you, and see how many maintenance agreements you need, and you make it your life's mission to go get them. And if you can land, in this case, 849 maintenance agreements, you're guaranteeing yourself $1 million of revenue without advertising a penny. Pete Ramsey here, HVAC Greatness. Hope this helps. Go get them. Talk to you on the next one. Bye-bye.